everyone, this is Cami from the School of Engineering at USC. Thanks for joining us today. I would just like to go ahead and get started, and I will go over a couple of things before we start on our presentation about wireless health technology. One thing is, before we start the web seminar, if you have any questions during the course of the presentation, please do use the Q&A window. It will allow our panelists to answer your questions more adequately. The chat window is useful. However, for the purposes of this webinar, it would be great if you can use the Q&A. So if you can do that, and one thing too is, if you don't mind holding your questions until the end, our panelists can answer your questions at that time. If you answer your questions during the course of the presentation, there is a good chance that your question might be answered. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Professor Giuseppe Cayer, and he will discuss our Master of Science in Wireless Health Technology.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Giuseppe Cayer. I'm a professor of electrical engineering, specialized in information theory, coding, wireless communications, and networks. And together with Professor Eli Nezami from the Keck School of Medicine, we are coordinating this master program. So without further ado, let's see, how do I get down on these slides? Okay. Oh, okay, good. Okay, so let me first give you an overview of what we are going to talk about today. I will present briefly some facts about the University of Southern California, and in particular the Viterbi School of Engineering and the Keck School of Medicine that host this program, and then we will talk about the program itself, overview of the area, facts about applications, requirements, and internship, and then of course I'll be happy to answer to your questions. So USC, as you probably know, this is the oldest private university in the West. It was founded in 1880. It's located in LA, south of downtown. Here's a view of downtown from USC campus. It's a beautiful campus. It has been going through amazing transformation lately. It's one of the fastest raising universities in the international rankings. Is as you can see, it's pretty big to be a private institution, and is very much oriented to graduate students, has a very powerful and strong master program, especially in the School of Engineering, and it has a very international vocation with a lot of international students coming from all states of almost all states of the United States and 110 different countries. Now, the Viterbi School of Engineering is top 10 School of Engineering. Has some very strong point of excellence, in particular in electrical engineering, computer science, biomedical engineering, and it hosts a very robust master program with a lot of different orientations and specializations, and in particular, so the Master in Wireless Health Technology is one of those. Is a particular program that is hosted in the Viterbi School, but is also co-sponsored by the Keck School of Medicine. The Keck School of Medicine is the School of Medicine of USC. So USC runs university hospitals, and also for the County of Los Angeles, it runs the LA County Hospital. This is probably the largest public hospital in the whole West Coast, one of the largest in the world. Is a teaching hospital, and the doctors of USC and the residents practice there, as well as in the university clinics. It is really going through an amazing transformation. Very recently has acquired a whole set of new faculties in brain imaging, has a top-of-the-nation program in brain imaging, a top-of-the-nation program in gerontology, a top-of-the-nation program in cancer research, and of course having university hospitals, it is the ideal place to do also clinical trials and research. So let's move on. Now, the Master in Wireless Health Technology, the first question is, why should we care about this subject? And the second question that I'm sure you are very much interested in is, am I going to get a job after this degree? And let me answer these questions. First of all, it is pretty clear with all the transformations that the healthcare system and public-private insurances and the Obamacare and all these things that we are witnessing right now, the healthcare is going through a major transformation, and one of the major drivers is massive use of technology in order to drive down costs. So right now, while in high-tech, technology has lowered costs. Today you can buy a computer for, I don't know, $600 to $1,000, and this computer is more powerful than a mainframe of 20 years ago that would probably go for, say, $200,000, $300,000. So you have an order of 10 or an order of 100 or 1,000, so 3 orders of magnitude to cost decrease, and probably a 3 orders of magnitude to computation power increase. This is thanks to the famous Moore's law. Chips become faster and faster and cheaper every year. In contrast, medical research, despite the amazing progress, has driven up the costs because people have focused on very high-tech technology that can treat better and better certain diseases, but they are very expensive. Now, I'm not going through, market analysis and why is this, but it's certainly the trend of healthcare costs is not sustainable. So it is time, it is widely recognized by economists and by businesses and by government that technology has to be applied not only to implement new drugs and new techniques, but also to drive down costs by, for example, providing new ways of delivering drugs, of delivering care, of following patients, and it is also pretty clear that the single most pervasive technology right now is wireless. There are, 7 billion of humans and 5 billion of phones in the world right now, so it's essentially one phone per person across the whole world. In the technologically developed countries, probably is more. I think that more or less each one of us has at least 3 wireless devices, maybe a laptop, a tablet, and a smartphone. They are constantly connected somewhere, and we live with those devices 24/7, 7 days a week. So wireless networks are everywhere and keep us connected all the time. So why not using wireless networks to actually provide better care and to follow patients without having them to go to the hospital, reserve an appointment, see the doctor is busy, wait 3 months, do a lot of paperwork, consume gas, maybe take in countries where the distance between patients and doctors is large, for example, in the developing countries, in rural areas, in Africa or in India or whatever else. Doctors are not easily accessible, while everybody is covered by a wireless network. Even the most absurd rural areas in the world, people have mobile phones. So clearly there is a huge potential there, and companies have seen this, both healthcare companies and wireless providers, and of course also wireless device manufacturers. It is I don't know if you have seen in the last in the recent past, for example, Samsung presented some wearable wireless devices, in particular a watch, a wrist band that is the first step towards wearable devices that will not be just communication devices, but will have, for example, sensors able to detect the state of your body and able to deliver this information, for example, to a hospital database that automatically will detect conditions such that you are called for an exam only when it's needed and when it's urgent, and maybe with using preventive care, you will be able to predict that something bad is going to happen without first having going to a crisis before going to see your doctor. So of course, Google Glasses and Apple is also looking at this type of things. This is the new frontier of wireless devices. They will be wearable. They will be not only communication tools, not only multimedia tools, but there will be sensors that sense the environment, sense your condition, etc. Then, of course, there are also other aspects. For example, there is an enormous interest from the military. In the army, of course, people would like to have soldiers wired such that they can be monitored at a distance, and such that if there is a condition, the system knows what's going on. So this is a very active area of research and a very active and promising area for technology development, and also, of course, for startup creation, so for business creation. It's just something that is starting in these years, but as usual, you want to jump on a young field that has to be shaped rather than going into a mature field where essentially everything is already decided. There are much more opportunities and much more potential. So, okay, this is what I said, is ballooning cost of healthcare. Now, these are examples of use of wireless devices for healthcare, for example, for continuous patient monitoring, disease prevention, treatment of chronic diseases, diagnosis. Wireless nano devices, they may be implanted or wearable. There are scanning and imaging methods. There is a whole field called proteomics that aim at detecting proteins, and proteins are biomarkers for certain diseases that you can essentially detect before they become active. For example, a typical example is in the early detection of cancer. Sometimes you don't even realize, a patient does not realize that it has cancer until it's too late, because the cancer has grown too big and such that it starts giving problems. But in fact, there are cancer cells are already reproducing, maybe out of control somewhere, but there are too few. But there are biomarkers, for example, in the blood or in the saliva or in the breath, that can be actually detected. And there is a lot of research in detecting these biomarkers. And of course, if you can do this with the wearable wireless devices that immediately relay, for example, the immense amount of data that have to be computed in a sort of cloud computing, instead of having your device to do the computation, you just send the samples electronically to a database, a little bit like Siri. I'm sure you know Siri, but maybe you have used Siri. Siri is a speech recognition algorithm. It's not run in your phone. It's run in the cloud. Your phone is sampling your speech, is sending samples from your speech to a cloud computer that is much more powerful than your phone, that interpret the speech, and then it comes back with an answer. So this can be done, of course, in principles, it could be done for healthcare situations where the computation that you can do on board is too expensive, but you can have a cloud computer and use the wireless channel to essentially deliver the measurements, have the computation done elsewhere, and come back with the results. So let's move on. Okay, these are all examples you can see in the presentation. We have these slides, by the way, online in the web page of the course, so you can see more details. Now let me go more quickly through the course. So before giving details on the course and the requirements and everything, let me also point out that this area is now collecting quite a bit of attention, both in terms of scientific publications. For example, here is a special issue of IEEE Communication magazine dedicated to wireless health. There are companies like Qualcomm Life, Medtronics, and several others, Siemens. There are operators, in particular China Telecom, Verizon, Deutsche Telekom. There are a lot of operators that are interested in these things. And of course there are big conferences like the Health Summit. Mobile Health Summit is one of those conferences that takes place every year and collects a lot of industries and researchers and hospitals, etc., etc. So there is a very active interest. If you at USC, there are several research projects run by different groups. This is just one example. There are many others. In our website, we have a link to the Body Computing Center of the USC Keck School, and you can also take a look there, click on the link and see what they do. In terms of investments, the area is rapidly increasing. So, as I said, is a young area, but is predicted to increase very rapidly because of the interest. In terms of popularity, well, you just look at the number of items you find online by clicking wireless health or wireless health technology, mobile health. You have hundreds of millions of hits, and this is rapidly growing. You have links to several conferences. There are, of course, several universities that also dedicate centers on these themes. In particular, for example, there is a center at NYU. There are papers in the articles in the popular press they're getting out more and more often talking about this. There are companies. Qualcomm Life is an example, which is kind of local because it's located in San Diego. Medtronics is also local, is here in Northridge, in the north of Los Angeles, and there are several others. Now, let's move on the program itself, and let's look at the objectives of this program. So, as you may imagine, designing such a program was a little bit challenging because we tried to put into a single master program two very complementary and interdisciplinary point of views: the medical viewpoint and the engineering viewpoint. Now, the idea is that we provide, through courses in medical science, a basic background on the fundamentals of healthcare and medicine, and at the same time we provide a very solid background in electrical engineering, wireless communications, networks, and programming. In particular, developing applications on wireless platforms, so programming under Android and really developing projects, interfacing devices, such that the students who follow this course will understand the problems, will be able to speak and understand the medical language and interface with the needs of medical teams, and at the same time be able to implement. So it's a very hands-on practical training with solid basis. Now, well, this is me, just for your knowledge. This is my colleague Andy Molish, renowned researcher in wireless communication. And this is Professor Eli Netzami from the Keck School. We are the coordinators and co-directors of this program. So in terms of prerequisites, the background that we require is the classical background required in any master in electrical engineering at USC. So it's basic math, linear algebra and probability, calculus, signals and systems, and harmonic analysis. So basic thing, and proficiency in programming. In particular, you're going to use C, C++, and you're going to learn to program with Python and or develop Android apps. Use MATLAB for simulations. The background on the health sciences part, in a certain sense, is not assumed. If you have some, great. If you don't, the courses on the medical fundamentals are designed in order to be as self-contained as possible, although of course there will be some challenges, especially in the approach. Is not engineering; is a different teaching style, and but this is also interesting, I guess, to acquire this type of background, which is non-standard and will certainly enlarge your horizon. So. Here is an overview of the required units. So every master program is divided into a set of required units and a set of electives. Normally, this is pretty much in line with all other master programs. We have 20 required units and another 10, 11 elective units. The 20 required units are contain introduction to computer networks, a wireless mobile network design and laboratory. Here is where you really learn how to develop applications on wireless platforms. There is a health technology internship where you will develop a project either at USC or outside USC under academic supervision. So how to select this project? Well, it's a little bit tricky in the sense that we will do our best to interface you with companies and research teams at USC and outside. But of course, if you find something that it is of your interest and you make your own contacts, you may actually propose a self-selected internship that will be evaluated. It must have, of course, a value, an academic value towards this degree, but for the rest, you are very much free of selecting something that maybe you find. There are companies that offer internships for students, for graduate students. It is going to be a very good way of earning some units, maybe earning some money, and also somehow laying the foundations for a possible job down the line, because you start establishing relationships with the people who may hire you after you get your degree. And then there are 12 units of foundational medicine, and to this regard, I would like to pass the microphone to Professor Nezami, who can tell you a little bit more about those.
Good morning. So the intention for these units is that we are going to have engineers who are trained as electrical engineers, and they are going to learn everything they need to know to be able to understand and conduct research in the area of medical, prevention of illnesses, diagnoses, treatments, would be able to talk to physicians and would be able to work within the hospital environment. So they learn everything they need to be knowledgeable to work with physicians and healthcare providers. It starts from very elementary pre-med courses to an introduction of majority of the important knowledge you need to know as an electrical engineer to work with physicians, the trainings within medical school to actually understanding of patient care within hospitals to a certain degree, how the healthcare system works, how the insurance system even works. So within 12 units, you may wonder, how can you get that knowledge? Well, it's going to be an overview that's not going to get into the details, but rather it gives you everything you need to be able to work not as a medical care professional, but as someone who understands the language and is able to work with physicians in looking at what are the devices, what are the applications that are going to be working for patients, to bedside of what is it that actually the patients would be willing to accept as devices. There's a history of many devices within medical field that have come to the market, but they do not survive because the patients are not willing to use them. So within 12 units, you work within a hospital system, within healthcare system. You learn from physicians, from the most basics to the most advanced, that allows you to be a collaborator with a physician.
Great. Okay, moving on. Here is a list of electives. So as I said, the total number of units is 30 or 31, depending if there are some courses that are 4 units, so depending on your choices. Electives are in engineering, electrical engineering, computer science, and in biomedical engineering mainly, and also there are more electives in global health, where you will see aspects that have to do with administration and providing healthcare in areas that in the world that for which the usual path of going to the hospital and seeing your doctor may not be so trivial. Chronic diseases and things like malaria or HIV in area of the world where these things are a big problem. Now, in terms of the internship, as I said, internships are supervised by us. They need to have a meaningful academic content. It's not just cheap labor for the hosting companies. At the same time, I have to say, all the students who went for an internship so far had a wonderful experience. We had the students, internship can be local, at USC or in Southern California, or it can be somewhere else. Last year, people went to Toronto or to the Bay Area, to the Silicon Valley. And of course, you have quite a bit of latitude in finding an internship that fits you and stimulates your interest. There are plenty of projects and plenty of companies. Of course, we invite all the students as they arrive here to be as proactive as possible, both in terms of contacting people at USC, research teams that may need, for example, master students who implement things. Typically, PhD students and doctors like to do research and maybe theoretical research, but they have practical problems, like, for example, interfacing a sensor or interfacing a device with a computer, with a network, and to do some measurements or make experiments in the lab. And here is where you can spend your 2 units of internship learning a lot of stuff and actually implementing a project and maybe even putting your name on a paper. Or of course, the other option is to go outside, go to a company, like in this case. This is an example. This is another example. This was in the Bay Area, in San Francisco. Let's say we leave these aspects of the program a little bit open, because students are all different, and some people like to stay on campus, some other people like to travel, some people like a more academic type of projects, and others like more applied, closer to the working environment type of projects. So as long as we can keep an eye and a contact with your local supervisor in the internship, everything is possible. Let's say we are open to all kinds of things. And so let me spend a word on just to give you an idea of what could be a possible course planner. So for 30 units, we think that 4 semesters is fair. In principles, if one is very smart and very quick, can also do it in 3 semesters. So this is a 4-semester arrangement where you have 4, 4, and 4, and 4 units in medical. As I said, these may not be there because they are elective, so it depends on you. Certainly in Fall 1, so when you join, you want to take this Introduction to Computer Networks, which is a foundation course, and probably also get some strength in programming. This is an elective, but it's a course in computer science that really teaches how to program, how to develop software on a real-time platform like RT Linux and Android. In spring, the main core course is the wireless lab. where you learn wireless networks and you learn how to develop applications on wireless platforms. You have quite a bit of latitude in choosing stimulating electives. And then you have essentially here towards the end of the fall term, you start looking for internships and try to finalize internships such that the best time to take an internship is going to be in summer between, let's say, your first year and your second year, such that when you come back, there will be some more units to take, elective courses, plus maybe, as some students did, you may even continue to work on your internship at this point, you have already the units there validated, but maybe the project is so interesting and so stimulating, or maybe the company is actually paying you, so you may want to dedicate some time and go on. So at the end of this story, essentially, I think that working very hard and without requiring any prerequisites, if you validate all your prerequisites, it's probably doable in 3 semesters, but to have a nice internship and more time to breathe and look around, probably planning 2 years, 4 semesters is the safest bet. And also notice that if you put too many courses all together, you also have to take into account the GPA. You want to maintain a good GPA, because at the end, when you look for a job, this is one of the first things that people look at is your transcripts and your GPA. So this is an idea of, this is pretty much standard in the sense that also the other electrical engineering masters are more or less organized. Most students get their degree in 2 years. Although, of course, exceptions are always possible. Yes?
I just wanted to re-emphasize what Professor Kaire mentioned about the internship. It's not just about completing the requirements, but rather this is an opportunity that you would be able to do frontier work. It is an opportunity for you to be able to bring the knowledge of medicine within companies, within organizations that are primarily engineering thinking. And this is something that the past interns who have gone for their internship have really enjoyed. This is, you go with all of the knowledge that you're gaining from the electrical engineering courses, but you have something else to offer, and that is the knowledge that you have, the background that now you have gained in medicine. And I think the internship is something that you really enjoy, and you should not look at it as, I'm done with the requirements, so let's just not do more work. It is something that you will find out. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be something that is going to be thrilling for you. Past students have really enjoyed those experiences, so I just want to overemphasize that this is an opportunity and not just units.
Right. So here is, we come to the end of this presentation. These are our contacts. Feel free to send us email. It's probably better than trying to phone. At least you don't find me in the office very often. So send an email. I'll be happy to reply to all your questions. And I think that at this point we can just open the floor for questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, professors. While we wait for all of our attendees to send questions through the Q&A window, please don't use the chat if you don't mind, so try to use the Q&A window. There is one question that was asked prior to the webinar starting, and there are some students that are considering either wireless health technology or the master's in biomedical engineering. Do you think that you might be able to shed some light on the differences between those two programs in any way?
I have to confess that I'm not very familiar with the master in biomedical engineering. I think that the major difference is that the master in biomedical engineering is mostly centered around the biomedical engineering department. while these Master in Wireless Health Technology, despite maybe the name may sound a little bit restrictive, it has really a unique blend of courses that you take directly in the medical school and courses, electives, that you can take, as you have seen, across departments of electrical engineering, biomedical engineering, and computer science. So in a certain sense, there is more choice and also a more interdisciplinary and diverse training and background in this course. But of course, if I don't want to say anything bad against the Master in Biomedical Engineering. I'm sure it's certainly a great master. It's probably more, my feeling is that this is probably more concentrated on devices, in particular on sensors, while here this Master in Wireless Health is more concentrated on systems. Essentially, you would become a system integrator that solve problems instead of essentially studying, how to detect that particular molecule rather than design. So essentially, you will be using sensors, but you probably are not going to design sensors or learn how to design sensors in this master. While in the other case, you probably look more at the biology of the sensors.
So what I would like to add is that majority of the people who apply to biomedical engineering have some chemistry, biology, life sciences background. And it is a continuation of those courses that they are going to build on. For this program, you could apply with absolutely having had no biology or chemistry from high school on, or even not really that much advanced courses in these areas at the high school level. What we are looking for are the people who are intrigued, excited to be electrical engineers, who like to do the work that an electrical engineer does, but they are also excited about the intersection between medicine and engineering. And that's why we team 3 courses that are condensed with the assumption that you really don't know anything about those backgrounds. We put everything together in a condensed fashion and only focus on the most essential things an electrical engineer needs to know in order to be able to develop applications that would be relevant to medicine. And we'll take it much further than what you're going to learn even after you have finished your master's in electrical engineering, if in regard to the patient care, in regard to actually having access to interview patients and see what are the things that from a personal level makes devices and makes applications viable for your patients. For example, if you look at the elderly population, they haven't been raised with the applications and cell phones, yet they are learning a lot about the cell phones. In order for you to be able to create applications that would be acceptable and used by elderly, you need to look at what are the fonts for what you are providing. This is something that you're not going to learn in engineering or in medicine. But if you interact with elderly patients, you'll see they can't see small prints. So you need to be able to consider those things. So I see actually there are quite a bit of a distinction between the biomedical engineering and the masters in wireless health. We are looking for people who love electrical engineering.
Thank you so much for addressing that question. We do have a couple of additional questions. We do have a question about the GRE and the TOEFL. Those 2 exams are required to apply for this master's program, and separately we can send you the scores that we recommend for those 2 exams. So in the interest of time, we will address some other questions specifically for the professors. There is one.
I think that about the background, I see a question about the background saying, yeah, I think we have extensively answered this question. There is no specific background in life sciences or biology required because you would learn it in a rather self-contained fashion here.
And there's a question about is any teaching on systems engineering approach related to wireless health technology?
Well, it is, okay, so there is no course per se on wireless health technology. The whole master is about wireless health technology, and so essentially you will have to connect the dots in a certain sense because you are going to see wireless networks, you are going to see you know, the health care problems, and you're going to be confronted with internships where these things get together on specific projects. So I think that you will have, you will develop all the needed background to become, you know, developers and innovators in this field, and you know, at the point that you will essentially work on your own projects. Is this a PhD course? No, it's not. This is a master course. During your projects, your internship, you may interact with the research teams, with the PhD students, and even, you know, move to a PhD if, you know, the circumstances and your interest and the interest of the hosting professor or research team is there, but this requires a separate application. And is not the same thing. It happened in the past that some students, through one of the internships, they got involved in a research program, they became interested, and instead of, you know, getting a degree and going to work, they decided to continue on a PhD. And they found an advisor who was willing to fund them, and they are still here pursuing their PhD. So it is possible, but this being admitted to this program does not mean that you are automatically admitted to a PhD program.
There is a question if past research on medical devices is an added weightage to the applicant, so does that enhance a person's application if they have research in medical devices?
Oh, it's great. If you have done research in medical devices, it's definitely a plus for your CV.
Okay, we'll leave a couple of more minutes for additional questions if you have any. And there are some other panelists also on this webinar that can answer more technical questions about the application and deadlines and things like that, but I will address one of them. The application deadline for the fall of 2014 is January the 15th of 2014. If you would like to be considered for some partial scholarships that are merit-based, please do submit an application by December the 15th, which is about a little less than a month away. Okay? So we'll give you a couple more minutes. If you have additional questions, please do address them through the Q&A.
Good. Looks like we are all happy.
Okay, so we do have on the slides the contact information for all of the professors that are related to this program. So please do feel free to either contact our office or the professors directly if you have very specific questions about this program. But I do thank you for joining us all today. There will be a recording of this webinar separately made available if you would like to view it or watch it again or share it with any colleagues. And we will make the slides available too in PDF format to send to you shortly after. Okay, so thank you all for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and end the session, but please do contact us, and then you will have our information to contact us after the session. Okay, thank you.